Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo.com. I am pleased to have my buddy Ronald in the house. He is the reigning NBA king at SportsMemo, making over 80 units last year for his clients. There's special deals going on, guys and gals, at SportsMemo.com for the college basketball season and the NBA season, and I would highly recommend getting both of us because we are told that we are definitely the two best NBA cappers on the site. Was humbly said because the betting gods are fickle and we don't want to ever anger the betting gods. Welcome to the show, Ronald. How have things been going? I know you and I had a tough one last night. With Miami, you can't predict injuries, and that's why we don't hit 80% for the year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yesterday was my first ever 5% play, and unfortunately, anything that could go wrong went wrong. And obviously, the Lakers came out with a W yesterday. So, yeah, hopefully we can turn it around today.
Yeah, and that's the whole key, folks. You buy a 5%er. Don't make the mistake of just buying 5%ers from anybody on the SportsMemo.com site because you're making a mistake. Get a subscription, pay the for 30 days. There's always discounts available, and better yet, get the full season because it ends up being like $4 a day, and that's ridiculous not to get on board a guy like Ronald, for example. That kind of cheap price, it'll be worth its weight in gold compared to the price you pay. Believe me. So we have 3 games tonight, Ronald, and the first one is the Toronto Raptors, who are 6-6, seem to be playing a little bit better. They're 4-1 on the road. Playing the 76ers, who have had, you can't even call it a short bench. I mean, a couple of these games now, they haven't had any bench and available to them. But they do have Tobias Harris coming back. Embiid will be playing, as far as I know. The line is only Philly -3, and the over-under is 210 points. What are you seeing in your early research on this game?
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Sixers are going to be shorthanded again. I think even if Harris does play today, just because he's coming back from COVID, I feel like he's going to be limited a little bit. Curry, I think he's a game time decision today as well. So I think, obviously in the last game you saw, they kept up in the first half and then it kind of flattened out in their last game. But they really play a quicker pace without Embiid. And that's something that I think I want to look at is the pace on the 76ers side versus the side, just because there's some questionable things on both sides, right? Like the Sixers have the shorthanded squad, and then the Raptors, they're actually on a 3-game losing streak, and Siakam's going to be resting. But even though they're the healthier team right now, I just can't seem to kind of push myself to back them right now in this specific situation because they're on a back-to-back road games as well. So I think if I were to play this game, it would be on the total, and I would look towards the over on this one, just because of the pace that the Sixers play without Embiid.
Yeah, I agree. And your Embiid is not playing tonight?
Not that I know of. I saw he was out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's things change. I remember last year, get the injury report at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, and there was times where I made decisions to bet, or the injury report confirmed my bet, and then Sunday I turn on the game, and the guy that was supposed to be out is actually playing. It's tough, and this year so far has been a lot better than last year in terms of if a guy's out, he's out.
That actually happened. That happened to me yesterday with the Kings. I had the Kings as a play as well, and then Halliburton was called out like 30 minutes right after I posted as a play. So, yeah, those things are tough.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it. Jimmy Butler last night for the Heat rolling the ankle. I mean, that didn't help our cause either. Because I was on Miami myself, and I had a four unit play, which isn't much lower than a 5%er. So this is that's my saying, and it may sound dumb, but there's hydrants and there's dogs, and we know what dogs do to hydrants. And last night, Ronald and I just had to be the hydrant, and it's all right. So we'll move on. But Philly's in a couple good angles here. 29-16 after playing a home game in games played over the last 2 seasons. What I will do this afternoon, and I'll update this on the comment section of the YouTube show when it's published. What the Sixers are in that role without Embiid playing, because that is so critical right now with this team. And that's probably the number one thing to look at that Ronald outlined here, and I agree 100%. You have to know that the Sixers play much faster, quicker when Embiid is not in the game. And it's evidenced by the fact that they rank 28th in the league in field goals attempted, but they're number 6 in scoring offense. So they're very efficient when Embiid is in there, and that's for obvious reasons. So always keep that in mind. That's something you just write down and just keep right on your desk so you just never forget it. So we'll be back with more on that game later today, and we can move on to the next one. And that game is the 9 o'clock game where the Pacers, who are a shock, at least to me, and I think you would agree, Ron, 4-8, 1-6 on the road. I mean, they should just stay away from all highways, I guess, and not venture out past Indiana. Yeah. They're taking on a Jazz team now. It's 8-3 and has a perfect 4-0 record. Utah is a 9.5-point home dog with a total of 216. Of course, Donovan Mitchell is playing at a high level, 25.9 points per game. What do you see in this game so far, Ronald?
Yeah, so the Pacers, they're on the tail end of the back-to-back road games too. But LeVert, I think he was off yesterday. I feel like he's going to be able to play today. The last couple of games at full strength, they've only, I think, if I remember correctly, they've only played 2 games at full strength, the Pacers have, and they beat the Spurs and the Knicks by double digits. And the Jazz, they could be looking ahead to the Heat and overlook this Pacers squad. The Jazz lost to Miami by 3 last week, and they got them next up at home. So this could be something where they're looking ahead for a revenge game here, and they kind of overlook a Pacers squad who, at full strength might be a little, underrated just because, their record currently kind of shows that they're not, one of the better teams, but they haven't been playing at full strength all season. So if I were to play this game, I would want to make sure LeVert is in. And if he is, then I would look towards the Pacers side.
Yeah, and I like the side. I'm trying to see if I have any updated information on the injury report here. And unfortunately, I have nothing to add on the injury side of things. But Indiana would be my lean as well. You're betting on road underdogs, 3.5 to 9.5 points after going under the total by 50 or more total points in the last 10 games, and has a win percentage of not higher than 40% on the season. That has gone 40, 12, and 2 for 76% over the last 5 seasons, and that would support what would appear to be a contrarian play on the Pacers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the last I looked, the betting number of tickets was squarely on the Utah Jazz, and I kind of think, assuming that 9.5 is going to be automatically covered because the Pacers aren't that good, I think that could be a huge, huge mistake. And then I would also put in the caveat that LeVert has to be playing, and if he's not, then I would make it a lean at best. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at some of these trends here. We can just pop one of these off, for beginning, bettors. You might see a trend that shows Indiana, for example, here is 3-19 against another after playing 2 consecutive road games back to back over the last 2 seasons. I view that as supportive of Indiana because it's so long. It's 21 games, and rarely do you ever see trends that are that high a percentage that are, say, 6-36, for example. And when they get to be this long, it's almost like that it's run its course and the Pacers that trend becomes meaningless essentially. Do you see it the same way, Ronald, or do you look at trends differently than that?
I think it really depends on what metrics you're looking at as far, and also how the team specifically, right? Is it the makeup of the team exactly the same, right? Are they playing the same way? Are they playing the same style? Are the key players the same? I think you really have to look at each trend or each system that you create or build a little bit differently than each other, just because of those reasons.
Yeah, so it's like interrelated to another situation or a fundamental matchup. That the trend then becomes valuable, I think.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard because there are times when your trends or anything might be on a hot streak and you want to blindly tail them, but usually that's not the case. You always want to do more than just follow one trend.
Yeah, and I agree. And there's one that I look at and I just know inherently that it would be a negative for a team. And with Utah here, when they shoot over 50%, and this is generally any NBA team, and we can, future shows will actually, when we get about 20 games into the season, we can actually tell you what teams are after a game where they won or lost or covered or didn't and shot 50% or better, and on the bad side where they shot 38% or worse. So Utah actually is a great case study here as we speak. So 4 games ago, they shot 50.6 in a win, 116-98 win over Atlanta. Okay, they won and covered. The very next night, they shot 51.8, lost the game to Miami, lost to the spread. Mm-hmm. So it's the regression thing. Again, you're going to fade the team that shot 50% or better. They did it again back-to-back nights. They also lost the game and lost to the spread as a 11-point road favorite at Orlando, 107-100. They shot 38.2% in that game. So now we're going the other way. We're gonna be supportive of a team that shot badly, that is a quality team like Utah. Lo and behold, they beat Atlanta 110-98 as an 8-point favorite at home. And they covered the spread. So right there, 4 games in a row, just looking at 50% and 38% and going the reverse, the regression or progression from the 38% gave you a 4-0 record just on the Utah Jazz. So I think that's something, too, that we can pay attention to as the season evolves. So let's move on to the Heat, who are just going through a gauntlet of road games here. The Clippers are their host tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be on NBA TV. Location, of course, is the Staples Center, where the Clippers and the Lakers share that venue as their home court. Paul George, the leader of the Clippers, of course. Jimmy Butler was injured last night, but he is listed as questionable for tonight, which I think surprised both you and I. What are your initial takes on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to bring up the Heat on second back-to-back road games, but like you mentioned, Clippers and Lakers are pretty much at the same spot. And then I feel like Butler will sit, even if he's listed as game time decision. I also think that there's a possibility that Bam might sit. He was a game time decision yesterday because of knee issues. So I think this is something that we got to wait until closer to tip off to see, the actual situation for these guys. Clippers, they're on a 5-game win streak. But those, I mean, if you look at the teams that they've beat, none of them currently have a record of over 500. So these are things that I look at too, yeah, this team is on a hot streak, but have they really beaten any contenders? And the Clippers, they really haven't done that yet. So I think for me, there's too many question marks here. I want to see the Clippers beat a solid team before I start to back them. And so for me, like I can't trust either situation, either team in their current situations today. This for me is sort of like a pass game.
Yeah, I can see why, for sure. There's one thing that sticks out to me, Ronald, and that is the trend in the NBA season this year has been overwhelmingly to the under. It's been 20 years plus that we've had a season start out with so many unders, blindly cashing 65% in October alone, and roughly 58.5% right now just in November. However, as you and I talked backstage, the last 4 days now, it's like a stock that has had a correction and it's starting to bottom out. So the last 4 days, I have here 17 and 15 in favor of the over. Last 4 days have been 4 and 4, 4 and 4, 2 and 1, and 7 and 6 over yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is starting to give me reason to play the over. The thing in this game, Miami has shot back-to-back nights, 39.7%, 41.7%. You would think that bounce back would be there for Miami tonight, but we don't know if Butler's playing. Mm-hmm. He's obviously a real important player on that team. And then we just talked about the 50%, angle, where you look at a team that shot over 50% and then fade them. So there's regression on the Clippers, who have won 4 straight. And to your point, Minnesota twice, Charlotte, who plays absolutely matador defense. That's what I'm going to call it. And then Portland. Portland is obviously a quality win. But still, 5 wins in a row, 4 wins in a row to the spread, 52% shooting the last game. I can't pull the trigger on an over, even though that would be my lean if I was forced to bet it. So unfortunately, I think that is you're right in this is a game that you just look at the box score tomorrow or watch on TV and enjoy it. It should be certainly entertaining.
You said you're leaning towards the over on this one? I
would be leaning towards the over.
Yeah, I think, when you say that, I think if both Butler and Bam sit, there is definitely a possibility of the over going, just because those two guys are key guys for that defense. And so that's going to mean you're going to have, players like Harrow playing more minutes, and he's going to play a quicker pace and get a lot more shots in. So I think I could see that happening. It just depends if the Clippers do regress, like you said.
That's interesting you said that, because I was actually coming from the angle of if they don't play, that means the offense is going to be not what it usually is. But your point's even better. And that's what's great about these shows, because exchange of information is power. And, that's a great point, that the defense is going to be much weaker without those two guys playing. And that makes all the sense in the world to me. So maybe it is an official lean now. There is an angle. You're going to bet the over in any game with a total of 210 points in a non-conference matchup after, in this case, the Clippers, after 3 consecutive covers or more as a favorite. So obviously the Clippers have been favored in all 4 of those games that they covered, but in this case of the angle, it's 3. Mm-hmm. And they were installed as a favorite. So that's hit 70% winners over the last 5 seasons to the over. So that's a perfect example of why we love doing these shows, because now instead of just like hesitating and not really thinking the overs to play, I personally, I like at least a lean. A lean for me would be like a 2-unit bet. And Ronald would be the same. So I think that's where I'm going to start on this game. And then anything that changes going forward, I'll update in the comments section, as will Ronald, with any new information, news, changes in our views. Guys, there'll be times where we do have a lean on the over in this game, and suddenly news will come out that Ronald and I will talk about, and then we'll change our mind. And you're entitled to change your mind. Even if you've gone to the window, you can still change your mind and make the counter bet to it just to make it neutral. That's very rare. I can't remember the last time I did such a thing, but I think this game will end up tonight either being a 2-unit over or no play. But we'll definitely keep you posted in the comments section. Anything big going on at sportsmemo.com for you, Ronald?
Today's slate is a small one for the NBA, and obviously, I think through our discussion today, there's a lot of hard bets to look through. But I am going to have an NFL play on Thursday Night Football, so I think, and I'm hitting over 60% there on the NFL side on the season. So I think, that's one thing I know for sure I'll have. I might have one NBA play, but I'm not 100% sure yet.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm off to a 2-0 start in college basketball. Whoop-de-doo, nice. Right? 2-0. It's better than 0-2, right?
Yeah.
But I'll have another NBA and college hoops play tonight. I know Sports Memo they stated that over 814 college basketball releases that I've put out over the last 7 years, I'm hitting 57.5%.
Nice.
And it's been consistent. I don't have any monster years where it might be 65%. The biggest was 63. The worst year was 48.7. And it lost $100 better, lost I think it was $450, which sucks, but I mean it's not 33% for a year, and $100 better has to sell his house and move into an apartment, for example. So we grind. It's one day at a time, and yesterday is history, and today is what matters most. So that'll do it for the NBA Triple-Double show. Ronald, I thank you very much for being part of that double part of the Triple-Double, and we gave you 3 picks, 3 game breakdowns, and 1 lean on the over in the late game. So on behalf of Ronald, myself, SportsMemo.com, and the Triple-Double NBA show, may all the wins be yours.